Hey, Jam Session, Genero again. Second video in the series, how to set up your guitar. This one was actually asked for in the forums, and I'll do the best I can do to get it answered and give everybody a walkthrough and how to. What does the setup entail? Depends on who you ask. Now, if you ask me, which is exactly what I'm pretending for the purposes of these videos, I'm going to tell you that a setup only really includes setting the action, which is the string height off the fingerboard, and the pickup height in relation to the strings. Sounds simple, but wait. Involves a lot of tail chasing and essentially repeating those three steps. Saddle adjustment, tune, check the string for buzz, adjust the truss rod. Now once you've overcome the first string, everything else you should just be able to drop the saddle down until you get a buzz and then bring it back up, and your action will be uniform across the strings. But it's that first string that's really the mountain that you got to climb. So getting started, you might ask, well, how high or low should my action be? I don't know. That's entirely up to you. Action off the fingerboard is user preference and depends a lot on the style of music that you play. Slide players, people with a heavy right hand and like to chunk out power chords, tend to opt for a higher action off the strings because both of those styles inherently bring their own buzz to the table, and the lower the action is, the more risk you stand of buzzing off of the frets that you're not actually playing. Whereas people who are really fast up and down the fingerboard and to get a lot of notes in per second would probably opt for a lower action to the fingerboard. Now, having said that, I was just watching a video a couple days ago where the guy said he uses a dime. From the top of the fret to the bottom of the string is a dime's width apart. I thought a dime is a good, everybody's going to have a dime, and that's a good middle ground to start anybody who's never set their own action for. So for the purposes of this one, we'll steal his method and use the dime as well. So like I said, there's a lot of lather, rinse, repeat, or tail chasing that you're going to have to go through in the process of this. So it's kind of hard to tell you where to jump in, but I'll tell you anyway. You jump in at the saddles. So I'm going to start at the 6th string, and I'm going to lower it down as far as I can get it until it buzzes. So once I lower it down, I'll check up and down the frets and see if it's buzzing.
And yes, it is buzzing. I'd like to think everybody can hear that, but if you can't, and after I ring one of the notes, you'll get an additional vibration that doesn't sound really in tune with anything. That is a string buzz.
Now, unfortunately, this is as low as I'm going to get this string before it buzzes, and that's just not going to cut it for me. So we're going to have to go and adjust the truss rod. Now, hopefully for you, it won't be necessary, but for the purposes of making the video complete and the purposes of doing this guitar right, we're going to go adjust the truss rod. Now, the following contains images that may be considered disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised, and don't try this at home. Unless, like me, you got a pile of guitars around and you sort of forget that you have a $10 acoustic yard sale find that you don't really care one way or the other for, but you can use for science. So this poor little guy is giving its body for science to help me show you what your truss rod is doing when you make a truss rod adjustment. Now you'll notice if I release tension on my imaginary truss rod, I'm giving the neck more of a back bow. As I do this, my string's getting closer to the frets. And conversely, if I crank down on the truss rod, the strings get higher off of the fingerboard because I'm giving more of a forward bow to the neck. So with that in mind, we're going to adjust our truss rod. Now, if you're getting buzz from the first fret basically all the way down the neck, then you're going to need to bow the neck forward a little bit and eventually, lower your saddles as well to keep the action uniform. Now, in our case, I'm getting from the 12th fret pretty much up, but the 1st to the 12th fret is clear, so we're going to bend the neck back and give it a little back bow. Now, remember, when you're adjusting the truss rod, it's never instant gratification. You can go ahead and adjust it, you lower your string down again, retune, and you can check for buzz, but you're going to kind of want to stop at this point, give the neck a few hours, even let it sit overnight, and try it again just to see, after the neck's finally settled in, where you're at.
So chances are, after you've let it settle, it's better, but you still have to keep going. So you're going to repeat the process. You're going to adjust the neck a little bit. You can go down to the saddle. You're going to adjust the saddle. And then you're going to go up and down the neck and check for buzz. And that's the gist of it. You repeat that process until you get the action where you want it and you're no longer experiencing buzz on the frets. So when you finally got that 6th string dialed in, it's downhill from here. Now you just go and you buzz out your remaining strings. You lower your saddle, tune it up, you check for buzz, lower your saddle, tune it up, check for buzz. As soon as you have no more buzz, you're good to go. You're not going to need to adjust the truss rod anymore. This truss rod's already set.
So the only thing left now is adjust your pickups. I would like to think this is something I wouldn't have to go through with everybody, but just in case, why not? Incredibly simple. You need a little screwdriver. You can see the bridge pickup's obviously much higher than either of the other 2 pickups. So I'll go to the neck pickup next. And you can hear how that's a lot lower of a signal. So obviously I'm going to have to boost that up. And a rule of thumb that I'll use is I'll take it to the highest point of the pickup to match about where the fingerboard rests. And not the fret, but the fingerboard itself. And that way, even when you're fretting all the way up here, you won't scrape your strings on the pole pieces. It's as simple as taking your little screwdriver and spinning your adjustment screws until the pickup is about where you want it.
Now, as we just heard, too low of a pickup, too far away from the strings, pickup sounds weak and kind of unusable. But if you raise the pickup too high, get it too close to the strings, the magnets themselves are going to hamper the vibration. You're going to lose a little bit of sustain, and your tone's probably going to sound a little mushy.
Now you can see, apart from having to spray some cleaner in my switch, that the levels are a lot closer matched now.
And that makes this guitar hereby officially done.
So that is worlds better than where I had it. So actually I'll thank Jam Session and for inspiring me to get off my ass and finish this one. Now Willie G asked specifically for a setup for a 3-barrel Telecaster. Well, here you go. It's exactly the same. The difference being you have less points of adjustment. In fact, you're adjusting 2 strings worth of action at a time because that's how many strings each saddle accommodates.
But the process is exactly the same. You're going to lower the saddle. Just keeping in mind you're working with 2 strings at a time now. You tune the strings up, go up and down the neck, check for buzz. If there's buzz, then you start chasing the truss rod saddle game until you've got that worked out, and then work your way down the remaining saddles.
And then there's the Gibson style, which is the bridge and the tailpiece. For these, you have 2 points of adjustment. All the saddles are fixed height-wise, and you're only raising essentially the 6th string and the 1st string. The good news is, once you get those dialed, it's set across the board. Likewise, the Floyd Rose has 2 points of adjustment as well. So thanks for watching. I hope that it helped a little bit. I hope if you weren't doing your own setups before that you feel confident enough to start now. And if so, best of luck to you, and I'll see you on stage.